The JED stablecoin confuses me, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you out there are confused on how it's going to work. Should you use it? Should you be minting a reserve coin? How does that all fit into the picture? There's so many questions about it. There's a lot of material out there, but I'm going over it and I'm still a little bit confused. But fortunately, I have Shahaf Bar Geffen joining me on this episode to talk about it and explain all those mechanics, how it works, and also how it differs from other stablecoins in the ecosystem at the moment. These reserve-backed stablecoins, other algorithmic stablecoins, and then also a comparison to Sigma USD. The same algorithm that is implemented for the JED stablecoin has already been implemented on the Ergo blockchain, and it's been around for almost 2 years. And it's very interesting how that one works and how it didn't depeg in all the market volatility over the last 2 years. So very interesting to see and compare the other stable coins out there and see how it compares to the JED stablecoin as well. All right, let's get into this interview.
Yeah, gotta do it like that. You've been listening to the Learn Cardano podcast. Gotta get it hype. Crypto is what we like, but this is not investment or financial advice. Gotta do your research, cause it's risky. We know it is. This show is educational and it's informative. Crypto's the future, really, it ain't no debate.
I have Shahaf joining me on this episode to talk about JED, the stablecoin that's being released on the Cardano blockchain. I'm really excited about this because the DeFi ecosystem, Cardano, really needs a stablecoin, and this is a really exciting one. We've been waiting for this one to come out. So Shahaf, first of all, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
It's great to be here, Peter. Thank you for having me.
Now, I'd love to learn a little bit about yourself and how you got into the cryptocurrency space. And there's so much more to what you do with Coty and everything else. Can you just give us a quick rundown of how you got into crypto and how you started Coty itself before we get into the JED stablecoin side of things?
Sure thing. Well, I've been a tech entrepreneur for the last 20 years. My first venture was a company called Web3. That was acquired by IPG, the McCann Erickson Group. Then co-founded Positive Mobile, which was one of the world's first mobile networks for smartphones. That was acquired by Brightcom. And then ventured into crypto in 2015, mostly as an investor. But I am a stronger operator than I am an investor. So we started Coty at 2017. And Coty is an enterprise-grade layer 1 that is optimized to solve payments. There is obviously a great need for general purposes layer 1s like Cardano. But if you're trying to solve one thing and do it best, then you can optimize your layer 1 to do exactly that. And this is what we did with Coty.
Brilliant. And you have a whole bunch of products that I've actually been playing around with. I've been playing around with A2Pay and the integrations to WooCommerce and all these other e-commerce platforms. So we'll get into that some other time. But this episode, we really want to dig into JED and what that is all about. Can you give us an overview of what it is and what you guys have been building for the last year? It seems like a year or so.
Yeah. Like last year at the Cardano Summit, I was on stage with Charles Hoskinson. I was his AirPods moment, right? It was one last thing. And then we went on stage and announced that we are going to build JED together. So IOG, led by Charles Hoskinson and a brilliant development team, is actually building the smart contracts for JED. And Coty is doing two things other than publishing the smart contracts. We are building the front end that is in JED XYZ, and we are developing the ecosystem around JED. And we've already signed over 40 partnerships to support JED once it launches, which I think is quite remarkable. So what is JED? First of all, JED is a stable coin. But it's not just an ordinary stablecoin, and everybody understands stablecoins. JED is an over-collateralized algorithmic stablecoin. It's really a next-generation type stablecoin. It's backed by ADA, and it uses, because it's algorithmic, it uses a reserve coin called Shen to offset some of the price fluctuation, other than being backed by ADA. So it's important to note that as it's backed by ADA. ADA is an independent asset. This is why it's very different than other algorithmic stablecoins. ADA has its own utility, its own market depth, and great liquidity. So it's not dependent, like maybe the case was for Luna and UST. It's not dependent on that. So this is why it's pretty safe. And it's also over collateralized by ADA. So it's not just an independent asset. We actually use a lot of it. How much? Healthy ratio would be 4x to 8x. So 400% to 800% over collateralization. So it means that even if ADA price drops significantly, much more than it ever did in history, maybe even 5 times more than it did, at an instant moment, still the stablecoin doesn't depeg. Now, providing over collateralization is expensive. So how do we do that? We use Shen. So Shen, that is part of the system, actually offsets some of the fluctuations of ADA. But this is also the incentive for people to provide so much ADA to the smart contracts, because if you hold Shen, you're getting the rewards that are coming from this system. So it's completely decentralized, completely community-driven. The rewards go back to the community, and this is why it's so special.
Sorry, the mute button was jumping away from me. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to visualize how this all works and how the mechanics of this works when we're minting Shen, we're minting JED, or just buying JED as a stable coin. There's so many different aspects to this to make it work. Now, I have seen a video that explains it, but for a lot of listeners and viewers, we're still a little bit confused. Can you explain the mechanics behind this, or how it all works, how all the pieces of the puzzle fit together?
Yes, I will. Because like every interesting thing, it's a bit complicated. But you don't actually need to understand it for it to operate. This is the magic behind it. But let me explain it in layman terms. But for people that want to dig in more, in JED.xyz, the full white paper is there. The first part of it is more inscriptional. Then you have some mathematical formulas that are very easy, like very basic math. And then you have the formal verification, which is way beyond most people's pay grade. But you don't need all of that. But let me just explain the whole mechanism. So as we begin, moment zero, right? Just the big bang, everything starts now, right? Yeah. So you have you don't have any ADA in the smart contract. There is no JED, there is no Shen, there is nothing there. People start pouring in ADA into the smart contract, right? Why do they do that? Because when they pour in this ADA, they can get Shen. And Shen, as I've mentioned, is a token. It's a volatile asset. It has a value that is derived directly from the protocol, because you collect fees, because you collect some upside of ADA and other things. But for the time being, people are pouring in ADA into the smart contract, and they are minting Shen. Once we reach a certain threshold, and that threshold is set to 400%, people can start minting JED, because now we have a lot of collateral in the smart contract. So let's say there are $4 worth of ADA in the smart contract. You can now mint 1 JED worth $1, 4 to 1. Okay?
Yeah.
Now this process continues, right? And people are pouring in more ADA into the smart contract, because now they either want to mint Shen, because they still want to be part of the system, or they actually want to mint JED, the stablecoin, because they want the stablecoin, because they want some safe haven from volatility, because they want to gain farming rewards, indexes, for all the good reasons people want a stablecoin. So we are above 4x now, and the system works freely for everybody. So you can mint Shen, you can burn Shen, you can mint JED, you can burn JED, everything works. Now there is a lot of ADA in the smart contract that is actually 8x 800% threshold compared to the demand for JED. When we reach that, you can still obviously mint and burn JED, but you cannot mint any more Shen. Why? Because we don't want to dilute all the holders of Shen, because now there's a lot of people there and they're getting the fees, and we don't want to dilute them anymore. So above 8x, so there are $8 worth of ADA there for Shen holders. You can only mint, you cannot, and there is just one JED out there, you cannot mint any more Shen. If people mint more JED, then the collateral ratio changes and people can still mint more Shen. So 0 to 8x, you can freely mint Shen. Above 8x, you cannot mint Shen. Until we reach 4x, you cannot mint JED because there's not enough collateral to back you in all extreme cases. But above that, you can mint JED as much as you want. Where does it get interesting? Two things. First, safety and pegging. You can always burn JED. So you can always return your JED to the smart contract and get $1 worth of ADA. Why? Because we have over collateral and JED holders get the priority.
Yeah.
If we are dropping below 4x, JED can still be burned for ADA, but you cannot burn your Shen now. This is the risk you're assuming. Until there is more ADA in the smart contract, you cannot burn your Shen. So this is how this whole thing works. We will share an image afterwards that you can post if you'd like, that kind of like shows this entire thing. But the way this system balances itself is between Shen holders that are getting rewards for the service they provide with ADA, and we're not diluting them too much, and JED holders that for them, the number one priority is safety and making sure that I can always redeem this JED for ADA. So this is how this whole thing works.
Gotcha. So I think the key thing I got out of that was at that 4x point, you can't burn any more Shen, and JED can always be taken out. So there's always that 4x over collateralization for the ADA that's there, for the JED there. So they can always withdraw it out, so that they always have freedom of movement. So that's really cool.
And by the way, let's say you reach 4x, by the way, and people now want to burn some of their JED to get ADA. Now you can start releasing Shen as well, right? Because they've burned some of the ADA, so we don't need that much collateral. So this whole thing is dynamic, and again, important to note, we're not pulling the strings. This is all smart contract. This is all fully decentralized. There is no man in the loop. So this whole thing is dynamic. You can always see it in JED XYZ or just explore the smart contract. This whole thing is done automatically and decentrally.
Very cool. And now the other thing you mentioned was the rewards, the incentives. Is this the fees that the protocol takes for burning and minting Shen and JED, and that gets distributed to Shen holders? Is that correct?
That is correct. And let's kind of like overview like what are the benefits of holding Shen, right?
Yeah.
The financial benefits of holding Shen. Other than the fact that you have token that is volatile, right, and people can make speculation and predictions to what this will be worth over time, let's put that aside. Let's talk about direct contribution. So all the fees that are received from the burn and mint process goes to Shen holders automatically, right? When they withdraw, they get the fees because like the equity part of the contract just grows over time. How much is that? Obviously, it depends a lot on the demand, inflows, outflows, etc. We've built a model around it, and we predict, and again, this is just a prediction, we predict that it's about 10% a year, right? Which is
that's
pretty
nice.
That's pretty cool, yeah.
And is it in ADA or is it in what token is that rewarding?
In ADA.
Yeah,
in
okay.
ADA.
Wow.
You're getting ADA. Yeah. So there is that. Then there is the staking rewards, right? Because the ADA is locked in the smart contract, and we're working pretty hard to get this, to make this a possibility as fast as possible. And I think will get that sooner rather than later. So you're getting all the staking rewards that you would have gotten if you just staked in a pool. So let's say that's 3 to 5%. All right. So that's added to the 10%. Then there are farming rewards because we've struck deals with various dexes, all the known suspects, and they will be incentivizing those who provide Shen as liquidity to the dexes. They will give an extra boost. I would say it will probably be about 15% or so. So when you add all this up, it can go all the way to 30%. Now,
that's quite an incentive.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's the best. If you're long on ADA, this is probably the best thing that you can do with the risks that come with dropping below 4x, and then you haven't lost anything, but you can't withdraw it this minute, right? So this is something to keep in mind when you're analyzing or assessing, making a decision. There's one thing that eludes a lot of people, which is super interesting when it comes to Shen. So if you are long on ADA, meaning you predict that over time the price of ADA will increase, right? There is something really cool that is happening with the protocol. So let's say ADA was $1, right? So someone deposited 1 ADA, received 1 JED. Now, the price of ADA is $2. So when I want to burn my JED, I should be getting $1 back. So $1 back right now is half an ADA. It's not 1 ADA like it was when I deposited. So what happens to that extra ADA? Where does it go? The answer is it goes to shareholders because the equity piece just grew, right? So if you are long on ADA, you're actually getting some quote unquote leverage here without liquidation risk, without all of that, right?
That is really interesting.
Yeah, so this kind of like eludes people a lot. And again, it doesn't need to be, price of ADA doesn't need to go 2x for you to get that benefit. Even if it goes 2%, you're getting that benefit, right? So again, you need to be long on ADA. And I think most listeners of this podcast will be. Then this is an extra benefit that you're getting. So this is why it's very interesting to hold Shen. JED has its own utility. It's pretty straightforward. But we will have the sort of partnerships that we have for JED also means that farming rewards will come to JED just as much.
That is super exciting. And with the bear market as it is at the moment, I'd hope we're pretty much at the bottom of this and we can only start to look upwards, maybe, fingers crossed, but who knows with the global economic situation at the moment. We just don't know. But hopefully we
don't know, but we can certainly hope so. But, people will say, hey, why launch JED now at a bear market, right? And first of all, this is like never a consideration because we're launching things when they're ready, good, and safe, right? But actually for algorithmic over-collateralized stablecoin, bear market is actually the time you actually want to launch because the price of assets is kind of like at a very, like who knows, right? But it seems at a low rate right now. So when it grows, right, the benefit grows and not the other way around. So it's actually a pretty good time to launch crypto-backed stablecoin.
What fortunate timing. Very, very fortunate timing. Now, there are some questions from the community around how the JED stablecoin compares to other algorithmic stablecoins and other stablecoins in general. And one in particular is UST. We saw the massive crash of that and it completely disintegrate. How does that algorithm compare to the JED algorithm? Like myself, I'm not part of the Terra Luna ecosystem, so I don't know how that works. I'm assuming you do though, and you can explain that and how it compares.
I do. And again, it's so. This is like a very good question because it's always the elephant in the room. Algorithmic stablecoin, this must be Luna, which is kind of like not even close, right? The same way, not all algorithms are the same. The same way, not all algorithmic stablecoins are the same. But it's really important to tackle this head on. So let's even dig deeper and talk about how JED is different than all types of stablecoins. So the basic thing, the incumbents right now are fiat-backed stablecoins. Now, what's the issue? And that's good for the ecosystem. But like, what are the big problems with fiat-backed stablecoins? It always goes down to trust, right? Someone says that something is collateralized at a 1-to-1 ratio, and you need to trust this, right? You don't know. You need to verify it. And there is always FUD around these things. And when FUD occurs, things may depeg. So the trust in a centralized fiat entity needs to be there. Maybe it's not a big thing for people, but it needs to be there. And the more trust that you get, because this is like a regulated stablecoin, et cetera, it means that there will be more limitations on it, right? For instance, USDC can be seized, stopped, frozen, et cetera. So it's in a way, it's crypto, but it's not yours, right? Because there can be certain limitations on it and all the problems that come with it. That's one thing. The second thing is, the community does not benefit from the protocol itself when it comes to fiat-backed stablecoins. So the issuer benefits because he gets all this fiat that he can get, especially these days, get a very good risk-free rate on it. And this is their profit. The community gets nothing of it. So the utility is there. It may be limited due to certain limitations, but that's fiat-backed stablecoins. Then you have crypto-backed stablecoins, and always the issue will be, okay, so crypto is volatile, so how stable is this stablecoin if it's backed by crypto? And our answer is obviously, okay, let's just over-collateralize this whole thing a lot. Then there is algorithmic stablecoin. So let's just dive directly to the difference between Luna and JED specifically. The first thing is Luna was not over-collateralized. We've over-collateralized JED by a lot, all right? 4x to 8x is the healthy ratio. That is super important. Then algorithmic stablecoins that are backed with an asset, right? Like the case was with Luna and UST, that is directly correlated, can go to a death spiral as we've seen. They have a circular dependency, right? So let's say the UST is being depegged. The only way to peg it now is to buy more UST. How do you do that? You sell Luna, right, to buy UST. You sold that. Now Luna price drops. The peg itself, like the backing asset, is dropping. Okay, so we need to sell more Luna, and this is where it goes to this circular dependency. We saw, Luna trying to kind of like add BTC to the mix that is uncorrelated. That was actually, this didn't turn out nicely, obviously. So you have this circular dependency. JED is very different because JED is backed by ADA, and as I've mentioned, ADA has no dependency of JED. ADA can exist without JED. The price of ADA is not affected by the price of JED. Then you have decentralization, right? As I've mentioned, JED is autonomous, it's decentralized, it runs on its own smart contract. There is no man in the loop. Cody is doing nothing, actually, to make sure the ratio fits, and it's all automatic. We saw that when Luna actually halted the network to try and stop what was going on. The BTC reserves were managed manually. Again, man in the loop. It's good for certain things. It's not good when the beneficiary is actually the one that is pulling the strings. So I think this is why JED is very different than Luna. The only thing that kind of like ties them together is the fact that they are stable coins and they have algorithm running them. Other than that, very different.
Okay, thank you for painting that picture as well. It totally makes sense. And we did see Do Kwon interfere or had to interact to try and save the collapse of UST. So, and yeah, obviously that didn't work out too well. Now, there's going to be a lot of ADA locked up. So there's going to be a lot of ADA used in Shen and a lot of ADA being used in JED to mint them. And you're saying it's 4x to 8x, 400% to 800% over collateralization at times. This is going to be a lot of ADA that's going to be locked up in these smart contracts. Are we going to see like a supply shock of ADA? Like there's so much already staked in stake pools at the moment, and we're going to see a lot of that shift over to like smart contracts because people are going to want these stable coins. We're going to see a supply shock or something with ADA soon. This is like kind of mind-boggling to me.
We may. Again, it depends a lot on the success of JED, right, and Shen. But look, if and again, this is like, we're standing on the shoulders of giants right now, so I don't want to be pretentious, but if you're looking at the volume, right, or the market cap in the big stable coins on Ethereum, for instance, USDC, USDT, and then you kind of say, okay, let's say in an ideal world, we've done what's needed. Cardano is as big as these other layer ones, right? And now we have this capital locked in to stablecoins and JED, then obviously there's a supply shock, right? Like it's there's no way around it, right? But we need to get to that point. So there need to be a lot of buildings. But if tomorrow this was as big as it is on Ethereum, then you'll have a major supply shock.
Very interesting. It's going to be a very interesting future to see this one roll out and see what happens with the supply of ADA and as JED and Shen grows. Now, in reporting on JED and stablecoins in general at the moment, there's still this like big market confidence that we have to really build back into the general crypto sphere for stablecoins in general. What's your approach with this? Like, how are you going to build back algorithmic stablecoins? That term has been so diminished as it is, and people have no confidence anytime you say algorithmic stablecoin. How are you going to build back this confidence?
So I think first of all, it's education, right? Like we're doing here. Like I think the audience listening now can understand the difference between JED and Luna and other things. This is not like an improved incremental version of Luna. This is just very different than that. So education is key. I think the second thing is that the proof is in eating the pudding, right?
Yeah.
Almost the same algorithm to JED has been running for the last, I think, about 2 years with a Sigma USD on Ergo. So pretty much the same model as run there. And Ergo dropped, I think, about 95%, like a lot of coins in the market.
Yeah.
It's not specific to Ergo. Sigma USD and all the crashes in between and everything, the last 2 years have not been peaceful, right? So all of that happened. Yeah. Sigma USD never lost its peg, never. And again, this is not they don't even have the liquidity that ADA has. So I think this is kind of like a proof that this actually works. Now, as with every new launch, right, we're going to launch it. We're not going to, obviously, there's not going to be hundreds of millions of dollars pour into the smart contract day one, right? So it's going to scale gradually, and we're going to see this evolve, and people will play with it. And I think I don't expect people to trust anything. I expect them to verify, so people can look in the smart contract. They can read the audit, right? A lot of security audits have been, like 2 security audits have been done to JED, and they can watch it, They can decide that I'm going to watch this from the sideline and see what I want to do. The cost of watching from the sideline will always be, you weren't there first. Maybe you didn't mint Shen. Now you can't mint Shen because we're over collateralized, blah, blah, blah. But people can watch and see. So my approach is, other than educating people, we're just going to prove it over time.
Yes, proof is in the pudding, as you said, and I will highlight the Sigma USD for viewers here so they can understand and how that works. I have mentioned it previously in other podcast episodes. I do cover a little bit of Ergo as well, so it's something that some of our audience really do know about. So what is your rollout plan? I know sometime in January 2023, we're going to see the first iteration of it. What are we going to see after that? And what are we going to see in January? Then what we're going to see for the rest of the year as you roll more versions out?
Yeah, so we kind of like laid the groundwork for Jed by signing over 40 partnerships with everything from all major dexes to trading protocols, NFT marketplaces, launch pads, you name it, right? So now we're going to execute on all of these partnerships. So we're going to start with selected dexes. I think there's going to be like 3 of them that we're launching with. And they'll be part of the launch process. They'll give users substantial farming rewards for building liquidity. And we're going to start there and then gradually roll out to all of these platforms. And you said it right. Jed is essential for DeFi in Cardano. But I think there is more actually, payments, right? And we're going to release Jed Pay, which is kind of like AdaPay, but based on Jed. And we're going to roll that out to get extra demand for the usage of Jed. So there is that. And then there is the technical roadmap. So the version that we launch in January is already compatible with Vasil, but it still doesn't use Plutus V2 and all the benefits that come with Vasil. This is version 1.2, and that will be rolled out as well early next year. The next version will actually use something that is called an extended Jed that is a bit more dynamic and has extra benefits to it. And in between these times, we are going to solve how staking is done with through the smart contract and get all that benefit. And again, as I've mentioned, I think we're getting close to a solution pretty fast. So this is the rollout plan. Again, adoption through the partnership that we have signed, and I'll share some graphics showing you all the key partners, and technically improving Jed over time. Like what would be super beneficial is that we will allow other native assets on Cardano to be part of the smart contract, to be part of a collateral. So think about wrapped BTC on Cardano. Think about wrapped ETH. Think about other stable coins, right? And we're super friendly, for instance, with the guys in USDA and et cetera. Think about all of this becoming collateral. This can kind of like grow the whole thing, right? So this is a bit more long-term, but this is how we see this.
That's a pretty exciting development in itself, having other tokens and assets as collateral in there.
We can grow the TVL in Cardano, right? With this.
Very, very exciting there. Now, you mentioned security audits a little bit earlier. Is it possible to get those links and whatnot so we can actually see and review the security audits?
We will. There were 2. The major one has been done by Twig. So they had some conclusions a few months ago. The IOG team fixed it. Twig has done the audit again to make sure that everything is done correctly, and that is done. And I suspect that either IOG or Twig will publish the audit, and we'll share the links with everything. Look, security is always important, but with this sort of thing and the trust that is required, it's not just a good idea; it's the law, right? We gotta make sure that this is perfect, and this is why we've kind of like made sure that we've ticked all boxes with that.
Yeah, I think 2022 is the biggest year for DeFi hacks in general, off bridges, off smart contracts on Ethereum space. It's been absolutely huge. So we'd really want to keep the Cardano ecosystem clear and hack free. So fingers crossed. I'm sure you guys have done an amazing job on it.
By the way, it's also been the worst year in centralized entities hacks, right? With FTX and Celsius, right? It's just hasn't been a great year, I guess.
No, definitely a nuclear crypto winter, as I think a lot of people described it. Now, you also mentioned education a little bit earlier, and a while back, I think it was in September this year, you had the testnet version of this available and people could like log in and play around with the platform. Is the testnet still available for people to practice and get it is? Okay.
Yes, and even the new version is now available. So if you log into jed.xyz, you can test it, make sure that you're in pre-production net, and etc. And yes, and people are actively doing it right now, and we're learning from that. So I actually encourage people to do this now.
Brilliant. Okay, so I'll put the links to that in the show notes too, so that people can get some exposure, so learn how to use the platform and whatnot. Now, last question here for you. Well, what will it take for Jed to be successful in Cardano? What's your image of success for Jed in general?
So look, Jed is an enabler, right? It's a means to an end, right? The end is the growth of the Cardano ecosystem, and it can grow from usage. And usage, if you're just looking at Ethereum, for instance, we need to have big DeFi markets and marketplaces and payments. All of that needs stablecoins, and this is why all stablecoins are great. And for each his own, right? People can pick what they want. So if with Jed and Shen we can grow the overall ecosystem of Cardano, then we've done great. Then we've done really well for us. Benefits and incentives, right? Because show me the incentives and I'll show you what people are doing, right? So for us, if there will be, if Shen holders are successful, then it means that we're doing great, because as Cody, we have some operational fee that we're taking from the mint and burn of Jed, and we roll that out to the Cody community so they can benefit from it. So if everything goes well, then this small chunk means something for our community, and then we know that we are successful. But the circular dependency here is that Jed needs to be useful, and it means that it's growing the ecosystem, and then the fees grow, and then Shen holders are happy, and then we're getting our part, and then the Cody community is happy. This, as I visualize it, will be a good success, I guess.
Fantastic, and I really hope for that future as well. It's very simple. It's a very simple play, and fingers crossed. Oh, not fingers crossed. I know it's going to happen. It's with the community and everything behind it. I'm sure it will happen very, very soon. Shahab, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast to talk all about this and really explain it to our listeners to see and understand exactly how it all works, and I guess alleviate some of their concerns in regards to algorithmic stablecoins and how it's going to be rolled out in the market, and et cetera, et cetera. So thank you so much for joining me, and it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks a lot for having me here today. I really enjoyed this, and we are available, at JedXYZ, or you can ping support, or you can just follow us at Cody Network, and we're always there to alleviate more concerns if there are any.
Brilliant. Thank you. I'll make sure all the links are in the show notes and everything is there for the listeners and viewers. And again, thank you so much. Now, if you guys want to play around with the testnet, links down below for you guys. If you want to engage with the community, again, links down there for you as well. Now, just as a disclaimer, I was not paid for this interview. This is just something I'm extremely interested in, and I was fortunate enough to actually arrange this interview through a little bit of help through my contacts to get this one sorted so that I myself can understand how the Jed stablecoin fits into the ecosystem, how it actually works, and whether or not I will actually mint the Shen reserve coin, Jed, whatever it might be. I'm really interested in the stablecoin ecosystem on Cardano at the moment, because I think this is the last piece of the puzzle for Cardano's DeFi to actually start flourishing. We've been having a lot of TVL locked up in regards to these volatile assets, but we don't have that stablecoin. We need something pegged to the US dollar, where everyone is moving their assets to at the moment. And we just don't have that really in the Cardano ecosystem, or just starting to right now with IUSD. So it's starting to happen. So I'm pretty excited about it. And yeah, thank you again, Shahef, for joining me on this episode to talk all about it and get all that information, so we know as a community in the Cardano ecosystem how we could potentially use this and what our risks are as well. Now, if you enjoy Cardano related content, this is pretty much all I do, and I really appreciate it if you give me that thumbs up, click that subscribe button, click the notification bell, and you'll be alerted as soon as the next video comes out. There'll be lots more coming around this Christmas break. I have a lot of learning content for you guys, so you can fill up your time around this Christmas season. If you're a little bit bored, if you want to get away from the family and just learn more about crypto, learn more about Cardano, there's plenty of videos here for you. But until the next video, I'll see you then.
Yeah, gotta do it like that. You've been listening to the Learn Cardano podcast. Gotta get it hype. Crypto is what we like, but this is not investment or financial advice. Gotta do your research, cause it's risky. We know it is. This show is educational and it's informative. Crypto's the future, really, it ain't no debate.